Um, life.
Despite that, Roy is still determined to help these guys. So they get there, they drop the ammunition out of the side of the helicopter on top of these guys, and then they fly off. And Roy says, "Get me as close." He realizes that in his hurry to run and grab his aid bag so that he could help, he made a mistake. A really, really big mistake. He forgot his gun.
God damn it!
He is now in a helicopter flying into combat with no gun, no food, no water, no grenades. He literally has an 8-inch recon knife and his aid bag, and that is it. Despite that, Roy is still determined to help these guys. So they get there, they drop the ammunition out of the side of the helicopter on top of these guys, and then they fly off. And Roy says, "Get me as close as you can and land this helicopter so I can jump out." And they get him like 100, 150 yards away from where this team is injured and pinned down. And Roy jumps out of the helicopter and starts running towards them. He makes it 10 steps, gets
Welcome
shot,
to my
drops
channel.
it. He got shot in the leg. He
Stream
tells himself that he
Elements.
tripped and landed on a thorn
Welcome
bush
to
and he's
my
not actually
channel.
shot, but he knows he's shot. He keeps running towards them, and he makes it another 50 yards, and he gets shot again. This time, it's a glass into his helmet. He doesn't know that yet. Maybe he got shot in the head. Maybe he did. Maybe it was shrapnel. He has no idea. He'll figure it out later if he makes it. So he just keeps running to the team, and he finally ends up making it to him. So he makes it to where the team is pinned down. They're all spread out, way too far out. They're not in a defensive position. They're running out of ammunition. Every single person there is shot, blown up. Everybody is in horrible shape. So Roy gets to work. He picks up an AK-47 off a dead NVA soldier as he runs to each individual team member, giving them morphine, whatever medical aid he can, and then dragging them over to this anthill, this big pile of dirt, to get them in this defensive position where they're actually semi-close together and they can start fighting back. Roy ends up making it to the guy with the radio, and he's like, "This is Tango Mike.
It's
Mike,
just
I've still got
Nibble.
men on the ground. I need to get
Welcome
these guys
to my
medevac. I
channel.
have green smoke grenades.
Vesprige
Problem, so
I
you know where
jati
we're at."
sedem
Well, the
za
helicopters are on
PC
their way.
I
Roy keeps
pitum
going,
se
getting more
sta
guys
ku
and
da
dragging them
igram.
back to the anthill, giving
Na
himself and
kraju
everybody
odem
else
na
morphine.
wipsajta
Helicopters
I
finally
igram
show up.
Super
The
Mario
gunners lay down
XD.
suppressing fire, and Roy starts loading up the guys at the anthill onto the helicopter, but he still
Ja,
has
så
one
tycker jag.
man out towards the bush line that he hasn't been able to make it to yet. So he gets all the guys on the helicopter, and then he tells the door gunner, "Hey, we still have men over there. Cover me." And Roy takes off next to the helicopter as the helicopter is gliding next to him, and him and the door gunner are returning fire into the wood line, trying to make it together. So Roy in the helicopter making him the last guy that Roy knows of, and it's not Leroy.
Gels
So
nas
asks this
ovach
guy, "Where's
incidents
Leroy
to
at?" And
say
that guy points
desio
up
sa
towards the wood line.
studentima
He says he got hit back
XTKC
there,
I
and he's got a
vusik
bunch of
lagnika
confidential
ova.
classified So Roy decides that he's going to go get it. He takes off running towards where this guy pointed him out.
Mislim, možeš da ispričaš, ali...
He can't get that close to the trees. So the helicopter door gunner continues to lay suppressing fire while Roy runs into the tree.
Neku onda nista.
He gets some classified intel off Leroy's body, and then he begins dragging Leroy's corpse towards the helicopter because he at least wants to bring his friend's body home. And then he gets shot in the back.
Uspeli su napravit igriku great PoE2 mahahaha.
Sometimes it's darkest right before it gets even fucking darker. After being shot, he turns around, realizing he's not going to be able to bring his friend's body back with him, and starts running towards the and then he sees the helicopter pilot get shot.
Imaš Android igru
Jury ti sarovik ti bezes
Roy
XD.
makes it to the crash site. Everybody there that survived is pretty much ready to call it a day. They've accepted the fact that they're about to die, and Roy hasn't. He starts dragging everybody, getting them away from the burning helicopter and getting them into another defensive position so they can fight back. He's getting AK-47s off of dead NVA soldiers.
OS Davidis dati puzzle gems jaimat posto neko nis daklin daje proba savis se nesto buđe.
Ne bih. Za me banuju zbog političkih igara. Hvala. Jedino što imam, zapravo... Imam onu igru da je Toma Nikolić trči okolo i skuplja šljivu da peče
I nis igrali smo sa vimi na streamovima. https www.facebook.com/real. Jao ne moj board da sitas link. Shrika bzo sita.
Vučić brzo čita.
SMS no break I sarovik I jury milosa onog malog XD.
Ja sam na Androidu igrao, kako se zove onaj, a to niko ni ne zna više. Mirlju Petrović deli pravdu. Obučen onako kao Super Mario, iskakuće i ne leze ovi njegovi opozicioni protivnici. I onda čini mi se ima one kao replike 5-5-5-3-3-3 i onda kada skoči na glavu nekom ili pogodi kamenom, kad ga pogodi kamenom kaže dođi ovamo batu i onda nešto ide za Dušanov zakonik, zaboravio sam, skupljaš Dušanov zakonik kao knjigice neke, to ti je power up. Mislim da je Čeda Jovanović neki zmaj, imaju neke dve ženske, neke karakonđule, koje nailaze iz drugog pravca i njih preskačeš. A taj onako zabavna donekle, a ono sa Tomislav Nikolićem je dobro obučen kao pravi tradicionalni Srbin sa sve šajkačom i opancima. Trčkara okolo i skuplja šljivu za rakiju. I treba da nakupiš, ne znam, 10-20 jedinica šljive i kad nakupiš, onda pečeš tomovač. Onda ide onako, neko je napravio kolač kao slikice, kao Toma, kao peče rakiju. I onda dobiješ kao 2 burenceta, 3 rakije. I kad popiješ rakiju, onda si kao ne ništi. I onda ide muzika, ne može nam niko ništa.
Ha 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 ha.
Jači smo od sudbine. I onda samo cepaš.
Pogledać video samo.
Okej.
Ne mroas na streamu da pokazuđes.
Pa imam drugi monitor za to.
Ajma aj zvuk njega Moses isto da pustis.
Moment. Bi razvuko.
Akud bezit.
Ovo je Facebook post. Dobro. Facebook sam zadnji put koristio kad sam se zrbio jednu lezbejku.
Da upali zvuk samo. Ha 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 ha.
Da. Tugoma. To je davno bilo. Koja je lozinka? Ista skoro. Blok. A vidim.
Arizer.
https://www.facebook.com/.
Čekajte, gospodine Ćaci.
Samo ekscesni. Aha, uspio
Pola
sam.
kilograma hleba. Pola kilograma hleba. Pola zmedla. Majonez. Pola kilograma hleba. Majonez.
Dobar dan ljudi, ne bežite što bi rekli ovi.
Hleba. Arizer. Pola kilograma hleba. Majonez. Pola kilograma hleba.
Gde ćete, došli smo da čestitamo, nemojte da bežite.
Da li ste spremni da se izvinite?
Dobar dan.
Ajma aj poliseđa. Kao ne moć da se great XD.
Vidim. Ovo je baš... Ne znam. Dobro jutro. A nije tu Nenad. Ma di. Confirm. My buddy Nenad is not there. Jebote patak Nenad. Pardon. Ja sam ti kao broj 1 iz Alana Forda. Previše sam star da bi ti mogao pomoći.
Ataka pika.
Jutarnja kafa. Da ne kažem voćko riš. Malo kofeina da me razbudi.
Kođe saj godist.
73.
Ili.
8-3. Da je 93. Jao. Da je ja mlad toliko. Nikako.
Ej.
Jeste. Hmm. 40.000. Ne da mraze, ne skreći sa staze. Prodaj. Još. Ovo sam probam. Ne bude rečeno samo malo.
The enemy soldiers just keep coming and coming. There's literally hundreds of them. And this goes on for hours.
Ja ti gledam na drugom monitoru.
https youtube.eu
It's too hot for them to get a helicopter in there to load people up, and every time they bomb the tree line, more enemy
Nisam baš neki
soldiers run
fan
out of it.
ili američki
And
patriot,
it
ali
gets to the point that they're literally using the dead bodies of soldiers as sandbags to stop bullets. Roy and the men on the ground don't realize it at this point in time, but the
Rambo
crews up in the
J.
gunships that are mowing down
Yes,
the forest that the enemies are coming from are starting to mow down so much vegetation that they're starting to see straight lines, which don't occur naturally in nature. These are bunkers with fortified machine gun positions. The MACV-SOG team didn't just stumble across an entire battalion of men. They walked right into an entire VA base inside of Cambodia. Eventually, the air crews come to the realization that with this base there, there's got to be at least 1,000 men, an entire battalion there, and there's a rogue where they can bus in even more men for reinforcements. They're not going to be able to keep this up and get Roy and everybody else to be alive.
Ovo danas filmovi obitnas meka moram da se vrakam anazad da vajgal do nesto dobro.
They're going to send in the helicopters to try to pick up Roy and everybody else. So a group of A-37 super tweets bomb the tree line as a Huey comes down, and Roy starts helping to load these men into the helicopter. Some of them have lost so much blood they can't even pick themselves up. And while this is happening, the North Vietnamese soldiers rush them. They're coming straight towards the helicopter. They're firing. Roy's trying to load the men on while firing back. The door gunner's returning fire, and one of them ends up making it to Roy, and for some reason, whether he was out of ammo or whether he was trying to take an American alive, he hits Roy in the back of the head with the buttstock of his rifle. Roy falls down, and then he swings it again at Roy's face, dislocating his jaw. Roy, somehow still conscious, gets up, starts trying to wrestle this guy to the ground. He lost his gun. All he has is his recon knife, and this guy's got his rifle with a bayonet on it. And the enemy soldier goes to lunge at Roy with the bayonet, ends up cutting Roy's arm, and then Roy lunges at him, misses. The enemy soldier lunges back. He ends up stabbing Roy in the stomach with the bayonet, and Roy ends up getting to him with the recon knife, stabbing him in the chest and killing him. Roy pulls out the bayonet, can't get his recon knife out of this guy's chest, and he's now holding his intestines in his stomach with one hand. At this point, Roy's right next to the helicopter, and he's looking right at it. He should get in the helicopter, but he turns around away from the helicopter, and there's two Americans still out there returning fire that are able to fight. They're just not able to walk, and Roy runs toward them. Roy gets there, picks up the one that can't walk entirely, and starts helping to drag him towards the helicopter. And the other guy can't crawl, but he can't walk. So he literally starts walking on his knees using an AK-47 like it's a crutch. They get to the helicopter. Roy helps load them in the helicopter, grabs the AK-47 that the guy was using as a crutch, turns around again, and starts shooting at NVA soldiers that are charging towards the helicopter, as the injured men behind him literally grab Roy and drag him into the helicopter as they take off. As it becomes clear to absolutely everyone that Roy Benavidez did not just bring a knife to a gunfight, the communists brought an army to a Roy Benavidez fight and still couldn't win. After saving all the surviving members of the original MACV-SOG team and the first helicopter crew, through 6 hours of combat, Roy has sustained over 37 different life-threatening injuries, multiple gunshot wounds, over 20 shrapnel wounds. He has been bayoneted and he has been clubbed, and after being dragged into the helicopter, he finally loses consciousness. His next memory is being literally waist deep inside of a body bag as an American medic is zipping it up. His eyes are caked with blood and he can't open them. He can't talk to the medic because his jaw is dislocated and he's lost so much blood that he can't move. And from the medic's perspective, he doesn't even realize that Roy's an American because he's Hispanic, he's got the same skin tone as the North Vietnamese, and Roy's body is literally laying on top of 3 dead NVA soldiers that in Roy's fog of morphine and adrenaline, he loaded into the helicopter because he didn't want to leave anybody behind. Roy can literally feel the teeth on the zipper closing as it gets closer and closer to his head, and once the zipper reaches his neck, somebody stops the medic and says, "Hold on, that's Benavidez," and he instructs the medic to double check and make sure that Roy is actually dead. And the medic argues with him, and Roy's buddy says, "I don't care, double check." And the medic zips down the body bag a little bit and puts his hand on Roy's chest and leans forward to listen and see if he can hear breathing. And at this moment, Roy takes what he describes as the best shot he's ever had in his entire life. He spits directly in that medic's face.
Give him that hawk!
And And with that, they get Roy out of the body bag, they get him in the aid station, and they start trying to do everything they can for him, but they're almost positive that he's not going to make it. After his chain of command figured out everything that had happened and that Roy was pretty much the only reason that the 8 other men that survived made it out of there alive, immediately got him signed up to receive the Distinguished Service Cross. The only reason they didn't try to get him the Medal of Honor on the spot was because they didn't think Roy was going to survive, and they wanted to get him an award that they could give him in the field so that he could receive it before he passed away. But Roy Benavidez had other plans. He doesn't pass away. Instead, he recovers, and not only does he recover, he yet again refuses to get med boarded out of the Army into a medical retirement and continues to serve an additional 10 years in the United States Army. And during that time, they try to get him awarded the Medal of Honor because if anybody deserves it, it's this guy, right? But for some reason or another, it always ends up getting rejected. It gets rejected again and again, over and over. They just keep rejecting his Medal of Honor. But there's nothing that Roy or anybody else can do. For some reason or another, the committee in charge of awarding the Medal of Honor simply did not want to give Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez the award that he had earned. So he did the only thing he could do. He just kept on keeping on. So he went on, served throughout the military until 1976 before finally retiring as Master Sergeant Benavidez, the recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross. As Roy retires, there was another press push about how incredible he was, wondering why he didn't earn the Medal of Honor. And this ends up connecting him with one of the men that he had saved that Roy actually thought had died. And this man gets a hold of Roy almost 12 years after the fact, and he tells Roy that he's going to write up everything that he witnessed and send it into this committee again. And yet again, even despite all this new information, the committee in charge of awarding the Medal of Honor rejected it again. And then they realized what they were doing wrong. They were telling the whole truth. They were saying that Roy hopped in a helicopter, flew into Cambodia, and helped save a bunch of MACV-SOG members. And as far as the U.S. government is concerned at this point in time, up until like the mid-80s, MACV-SOG, A, doesn't exist, and B, if it did, it definitely would not be operating in a neutral territory like Laos or Cambodia, because that was against the rules.
I can neither confirm nor deny details of any operation without the Secretary's approval.
So the politicians and the bureaucrats in charge realized that if they give Roy the Medal of Honor for saving MACV-SOG members in Cambodia, which wasn't supposed to be happening, there could be political backlash, and they're not going to metaphorically stick their necks on the line just to give Roy what he deserves, despite the fact that Roy put his entire life on the line for that. So bearing this in mind, they redo all the paperwork, they jump through all the hoops to try to get Roy the Medal of Honor again, and this time, rather than saying that Roy's courageous actions occurred in Cambodia, they simply said that they happened to the west of Lock-In Airfield, which is where Roy was stationed. They just didn't bother to say how far west. And once you know it, it gets approved. Roy Benavidez receives the Medal of Honor in 1981 from President Ronald Reagan, 15 years after the fact. After getting what he had earned, he finally gets to go home with his wife and kids and enjoy his retirement for all of like a year and a half. Because on a random day in 1983, he receives a letter in the mail from the U.S. government informing him that he would not continue to receive his veterans' disability benefits from his injuries that he sustained during the war. And Roy's not having it. He goes straight to the media, starts putting out press releases and giving interviews talking about how ridiculous this is and putting political pressure right back on the politicians. And wouldn't you know it, a couple weeks later, the U.S. government comes out with a statement like, oh hey, we're sorry that we're doing this, we haven't been handling it appropriately, we're going to continue to do it, but we're going to do it in a more humane way for everybody involved. And while I can't prove this, I'm willing to guarantee that Roy Benavidez got the notification of like, oh, sorry you got that letter, obviously this doesn't apply to such a high-profile person that's got enough leverage to be a pain in our ass, here's your benefits, but we're going to go ahead and fuck everybody else. And Roy wasn't going to allow it. He came out and said that if they can try to do this to him, he can't imagine what they're going to try to do to everybody else. So he keeps fighting for not only himself, but for the other 350,000 veterans that were getting their benefits cut, right? Because they need help too. And Roy's going to help him. So he keeps pushing and putting more pressure on the U.S. government. Basically, he just comes out and says, hey, the same Ronald Reagan administration that gave me my Medal of Honor is now telling me and a bunch of other veterans that we're not good enough for the benefits that we earn. And with that, he finally gets to testify in front of the House Senate Committee in charge of this entire operation, and they end up shutting the entire thing down, preserving the benefits for 350,000 veterans. And with that, Roy Benavidez could finally go home, enjoy his retirement, and live happily ever after. So, in conclusion, when somebody needs help, you help them. And for the love of God, the fact that somebody renamed Fort Bragg Fort Liberty and not Fort Benavidez instead is borderline criminal. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is to buy some merch over at fatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. Oh, hey, real quick. If you guys wanted more, there's a book called Legend by Eric Glim, all about Roy Benavidez. The author spent like 3.5 years researching for it, and he actually helped me make this video. So, if you guys want to check it out, it's over on Amazon, and I'm sure it's on his website if you want to go Google it too. I'll have it all linked down below. Thanks for watching.
After that PlayStation comment, I'm taking these back.
Hey, come on. That's not funny. I want those.
No.
It locked me in our staging area and started unloading. Started identifying the
S Collector.
They found out
Welcome to my channel. Gle de daam raju bijazom vaje.
Jeste, sa ledeni mačin.
My mission was to recover the classified material, so if anybody had it done, he was on a helicopter. They left the 3 enemy soldiers on the side, and because I sort of look oriental, they thought I was one of them, so they let me lay right next to them. And they were putting us in body bags. And I remember my feet being lifted, and I was inserting to the body bag, and I could hear that zipper coming up, and I thought, oh my God, no, no. And I couldn't talk because my jaws were locked, and I could hear that zipper coming up, and one of my buddies was doing the Mexican head dance, and he was yelling at the doctor, that's Roy Benavidez. The doctor said, sorry, there's nothing I can do for him. I'll find out later. Jerry Cottenham made that doctor at least to feel my heartbeat. When I felt that hand on my chest, I made the luckiest shot I ever made in my life.
You koliko sasi denas you is lazy update za dark side.
Ja ne znam.
For those that had fought for it,
Je li u toku dana
life
ili?
has a special flavor.
Vidjet
The
ćemo.
protected will never know. You have never lived till you almost died. And it is us veterans that pray for peace, most of all, especially the wounded, because we have to suffer the wounds of war. I'm asked hundreds of times, would you do it over again? In my 25 years in the military, I feel like I've been overpaid for the service to my country. There'll never be enough paper
Ulpadam na Discord za par minuta.
nor enough gold
Okay.
in Fort Knox for me to have to keep from doing what I did. I'm proud to be an American, and I'm even prouder that I've earned the privilege to wear the Green Beret. I live by the motto of duty, honor, country. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Jeste. Koji ludak.
We're going to check out the new major order. Not only that, it looks like players are once again leaving negative reviews about Helldivers 2. In this video, we'll discuss that along with a glitch that lets you soar higher and higher into the air using the new hover pack. First, you'll need to unlock the hover pack from the latest Borderline Justice War bond. Once that's done, head to a planet, call down the stratagem, and equip the hover pack on your back. Then simply press the button or key, whichever works for you on PC, to lift off. Hold the button or the key to detach the hover pack, quickly grab it mid-air, and perform an emote right afterwards. This will let you stay airborne, wait for the cooldown to go down, and then, you should be able to use it again. Move slightly, then hit the button to fly up again. Then you can repeat this process continuously. It's a cool little glitch worth trying out, so let me know what you think. Also, since we're talking about the hover pack, I have something interesting to show you as well. And the support team has confirmed the developers left a certain thing with the hover pack in the game. You guys might have seen it before. Well, we're going to talk about it right here. If you haven't done this just yet, fly up in the air and then remove the backpack. Don't grab it again like the glitch. Just let it fly away, and you're going to notice how it does this whole cartoony type of jetpack thing. You know, it just flies all over the place. I thought that was really cool, and the developers actually left this in the game on purpose. Here's what the support team member wrote. This was intended, someone put it in as a joke, but they all thought it was funny, so they left it in. That's absolutely amazing. The more you know, I mean, come on, that's amazing. It's all over the place. I thought the whole cartoony, just let it fly away, and you're going to notice how it does this whole cartoony type of jetpack thing. You know, it just flies all over the place. I thought that was really cool, and the developers actually left this in the game on purpose. Here's what the support team member wrote. This was intended, someone put it in as a joke, but they all thought it was funny, so they left it in. That's absolutely amazing. The more you know, I mean, come on. That's amazing to know about. What do y'all think about that? If you can, let me know in the comments. Let's set that discussion aside for a moment and dive into the negative reviews that have been cropping up lately. To be honest, they're not as overwhelming as they were last year when we saw over 200,000 negative reviews, but it's still worth addressing. First off, I want to make it clear that my goal here isn't to stir the pot, spread drama, or bait anyone into a rage fest. Call it what you will. I just want to talk it through and hear what you all think. With that said, if we look at the graph, there's a noticeable spike in negative reviews recently. It could be existing players flipping their reviews to negative, or newer players dropping bad ones. Either way, while it's not the flood we saw a year ago, it's a shift from the smooth sailing we've had, low double-digit reviews just a few days back, to now hitting triple digits with negative feedback. Most of them seem tied to the recent update that's been tanking performance. If you missed my last video, the CEO mentioned they're actively looking into performance issues and even have DLSS on their wish list. Beyond that, I've seen some reviews bring up that the Chief Creative Officer's comments about Helldivers being fascist or something along those lines. Something I covered in a previous video as well, and it was totally taken out of context by an article where they wrote about him and said that he said all this stuff, but there was a lot more to it that I covered. There's also chatter about the game feeling repetitive, I guess. So opinions are mixed, but the bulk of negative reviews seem to zero in on performance problems from the latest update. Alongside some lingering frustrations over the CCO's comments, there's also comments about how the United Nations talked to them about mind control. Overall, the reviews are trending slightly downward, but I don't see this becoming a runaway trend. It's likely to fizzle out soon enough. So, what do you think is going on here? How are you feeling about the game lately? Are some of these players justified in leaving harsh reviews for Helldivers 2? Personally, I think the performance complaints stem from the recent automaton AI improvements, which have been causing a lot of performance issues. Something the devs have acknowledged. Will it get better? I'm optimistic it will. I get the frustration from players, and I think that's why it'll improve. They'll start flipping those reviews back once again, once things are stabilized and performance has improved.
A minute.
https discord ggued cap.
Evet.
Mene ubaci direktno kod tebe u sobu, bože suple.
Eto viš. Mislim, to ti taj server Discord. Gdje ja uglavnom visim, ali ono...
Da, samo što ne treba da mi ubaci kod tebe u sobu, treba mi pozove na Discord, znaš.
Pa mogu sam da pošaljem, pretpostavljam i server invite, ali ono, sve god. Dobro jutro.
Šta se igra? Sve mogu zombića. Čekaj, kako dobiti Dede Mraza?
Skupljaš ljubičaste novčiće po gradu. Sad zašto imam viška 20 novčića, ne znam, to je verovatno ako ubaci druge karaktere ili ne moraš ni da nađeš sve da bi otičao sve karaktere. Bude mi baba.
Zapad si, Boris?
iz Srbije, ako si na to misli.
Grad.
Pa to ti je ovaj Loćinac.
Mislim, čuo sam da.
Kako nisi čuo, pa tu su se okupljali studenti.
A nemoj tako,
Kod nas na trgu su okupljali tamo studenti i blokirali su par puta centar sela. I ovi Subotici su dolazili sa traktorima, donosili hranu za protestante i tako. Ja sam ih gledao bio dok sam išao na posao. Blokirali su bukvalno autobusku stanicu. I gledam lik maše zastao, rekao otkud ima snage oliko da maše, jebote, ruke bi mi opale.
Ovaj brati se najeo sandviča, čoveče.
Jeste, to je to.
Dosadno malo, a? Mislim, kako ti ujutro ovako, jel se držiš?
Popijem kafu, odigram neki game, ako vidim da nema nikoga do 10-11, ugasim, pustim neku seriju i na posao.
Druga si, jel?
Da, tako je.
Držite, moraš šta da ti velim. Gaming je malo dosadio, ali nema niš zanimljivo, bukvalno. Ako naleti, to je retko, brate.
Uglavnom stvari koje sam htio da igram ili da kupim već imam. I onda sad čekam, manje više pratim da li ima neka nova zakrpa ili neki novi content update. I to sad čekam. Naprimjer, Path of Exile 2 bi trebao da dobije neku zakrpu malo veću, da kažemo sad, za par dana, 5-6 dana.
I video što Epic Games daje neke 2 igrice za 2 dana. Neke mačke naslikane, ne možeš provaliti šta je.
A, to su Mystery Games. Moja pretpostavka je da daju igre koje već imamo.
Mislim da će dati nešto što imamo već, ali bilo bi ekstra da je nešto što nemamo.
To košta para.
Jebi ga, brate, da li su GTA 5, brate, bili ne godine, jebote.
GTA 5, misliš baš kampanju ili GTA 5 online kao sam?
Full, brate, full igrica, brate. Znači, da li su bili GTA 5 te godine, sad ne znam tačno ko je, ali mislim da je 2021. bilo.
A znaš da ti je GTA 5, onaj Enhanced Edition dobije negativne ocjene na Steamu.
On je novi kao, jel?
A to ti nemaš više GTA 5, već imaš GTA 5 Enhanced.
Sranje, brate, sranje.
Valjda su tražili neku integraciju naloga, slično kao što je prošli Helldiveri sa Sonyjem. I ljudi nisu htjeli da linkuju naloge i izbombardovali su taj GTA 5 Enhanced na Steamu, znači dobio je super negativne ocjene. Zdravo, Slavo.
Dobro jutro, ma da, treba im rejebati kevo. Dobro, brate, naprave neko stranje. Leži, bre, ja tada se pretplatim na njihov plus, onaj, zbog mobilne igrice neki što imaju na GTA. A znate, ne može u Srbiji, brate. Kako u Srbiji ne može, bre, najgora država na svijetu, jebote, ti da zabraniš u Srbiji, ne može u Tursku, a? Jer i Tursku razumem, oni, brate, zabranjuju Google, a ne...
O čemu se radi?
To što je Rockstar davao igru bio džabe prvo na Epic Store-u, pa sad ko ima na...
O kojoj igri pričamo?
GTA 5.
Dobro.
Pa ko je kupio na Steamu, na primjer, igru, dobio free kao GTA 5 Enhanced Edition.
Svaki platformi si dobio free. Pazi, ja imam na Epicu koji sam pokupio džabe, dobio sam free. Imam na Rockstaru, dobio sam free. Znam da drugari imaju na Steamu, dobili su free. Ali ta neka free verzija je totalno smeće, bre.
Sad svuda to ubacuju, čovječe, dodatno, ja sam se smejao, mislim to je već odavno na snazi, ono tipa GTA Online, Red Dead Redemption 2, Online i te fore, razumeš? Sve gledaju dodatno i što kaže čovjek, generalno base game možeš se uvatiš za kurac. Znači sve to moraš da platiš dodatno sranja, jel te da bi iskoristio kako treba igru.
Da.
Kako se to meni više smučilo, brate, jel? Kroz season pass ako nemaš, onda šta?
Dodatni troškovi misliš?
Naravno, za sve.
Za sve.
Ovdje uzo, brate, jebeni Ultimate Edition Vermintide. Ne, pored toga imaš dodatno karaktere da kupuješ.
Ne samo karaktere, već
krmu jebem u pičku.
osnovna verzija igre ti nema sve mape. Imaš mnogo više mapa nego što ti ima ono...
Ma imam ja u tom Ultimate-u dodatna 2 DLC-a, ali ima i treći koji se posebno plaća. To je One Ultimate kolekcija.
Koje sad igrici pričate?
Da, Vermintide 2.
Samo sam si šaltovao bez veze, da kažem, razumeš, čist primer kako gledaju da ti...
Da, ma dobre.
Razumeš? Što kaže Ilija, brate, Destiny. Elder Scrolls Online.
Destiny su davali džabe, ali Destiny ne možeš da igraš ako ne uzmeš DLC za Destiny.
Da. Ali šta su radili foru? Pošto je Sony kupio Destiny i provalili su da mnogo propadaju, da generalno propadaju. Oni su ti 3 ekspanzije dali na Epiku džabe, brate. Sad ne bi propali. I znaš ti, ja sam prvi koji sam dao koji sam počeo da igram ponovo. Samo zbog te 3 ekspanzije, inače ne bi nas da igru nikad, brate.
Sad ih ovdje dele, brale, po 2,5 funte na PSN Store-u. DLC-eve. Ono tipa 80-85% off.
Brate, imali su toliko brdo igrača. Kad su bili na Xboxu, i Xbox ti nudi sve DLC-eve ako se pretplatiš na onaj Game Pass.
O, to je tačno.
Svako je, brate, imao tu verziju otkucanu i svi su pikali. Čak sam i ja pikao Ultimate verzija, brate, sve ti živo otkucano.
Normalno.
I onda Sony se napravi pametan, kupi tu firmu i povuče sve s Xboxa. Znači iz Game Passa. Ili Game Pass skloni. Od tad kažu, brate, nemaju ni igrača kako treba jebati. Skoro su podelili, nije skoro, aj recimo pre godinu, dve. Brate, ja kad sam vidio da dele na Epiku 3 DLC, ja sam bio srećan, rekao jebote vidio ove 3 planete, znaš.
Da.
Idem da igram, rekao, brate, to je ekstra jebote. Znači da im plaćam 59 € za DLC, možda u pičku materiju.
Ja sam jedno vreme, dok sam igrao aktivno Elder Scrolls Online, uzimo da ti kažem iskreno, kupovao sam DLC-eve.
Da.
Izađe nova ekspanzija, op cash. Znaš, ili pretplatnik si, Elder Scrolls Online Plus, one jesu plus plaćaš. I onda kao šta, brate, uskraćen sam, jebi ga, nemam sad tu ljudi zonu koju imate vi, znaš. Op, pare. Ma jebi ti to, brate. Dajte mi lepo naplatite, ljudi. Ok, imam base game, ok, imam sa season passom. Izvolite pare i jebite se u bulju. Znaš, ovo je konstantno samo izbacuju.
Dali su... Reći šta su dali tačno. Kako da im ovom verzijom, ne bijem ti ovdje.
Ali izgubi više smisao igra u tim njihovim dodacima i više izgubi smisla, kapiraš? Toliko je pune da više, znaš, kao šta?
Dali su Destiny 2 Witch Queen, eto.
A da.
Samo da bi se zaigralo, brate.
Pa da.
300 € košta, mislim, nije loše. Ali, brate, beži bre u kurac.
Nisu normalni, šta da kažem.
Ništa, sad mogu da ga pušćam, brate, nisu ni Xboxu, ovi gube igrači, sad su u zadnje vreme se žale kako malo igrača imaju, bla bla bla. Što si ga skinuo s Xboxa, brate, ja sam ga pikao i na Xboxu isto.
Pa vidiš, pohlepo hoći dodatno pare, dodatno, dajte šta imaju tamo od vas, realno, jel imaju nešto?
Znaš kako, Microsoft to plaća da bi ti bio na Game Passu, znaš. Oni sad, brate, evo, hoće da kupe igricu, da dođe na Game Pass, ona nova, kako se zove, onaj zmaj nešto naslikan. Samo da vidim kako se zove.
Spiro.
Ne znam, brate, ime.
Pa Spiro, to je, brate, Sonyjeva franšiza, ne mogu da ga duvaju.
Da, ček, kako se zove, da li ti uspeti nađem na...
Mali, brate, čuo sam neke forice da se bore ovi na Xboxu da im dođu Helldivers 2 tamo. A oni za uzvrat ovo vidiš ovaj rumor. Da i Gears of War i sve ostalo za Sony, za PlayStation Networku. Znači,
ne moraju više da brinu, brate. Evo šta je Steam uradio. Steam je uradio to, brate, da će migrirati svoj Steam na Xbox. I sad pitaš šta će mi Steam na Xboxu, mislim šta, ono, ništa, dovešće sve igrice da se mogu igrati na Xbox, brate. Sve što imaš kupljeno
na Xbox Store-u.
Onda je na Xbox konzoli, čuješ šta kaže čovjek. Koliko ja razumijem. Ako Xbox servis, jel te, u tom slučaju može da podržava jebi ga sve te kompatibilne cross platform igre, razumeš? Pretpostavljam da će moći.
Ne bi da me prekidamo.
Moguće je toliko propala, brate, šta je ovo?